Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Sparkly here with a new video for you. Welcome to Season 2, Part 6 of What If Izuku Was Majin? I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. Izuku and Bakugo charged at each other with full force. One to destroy and prove that he is the best, and one to defeat his once childhood friend. They were face to face with each other, pulling back their fists and charging their respective attacks. Izuku surrounded his fist with energy, as Bakugo propelled his fist with explosions. Their charged fists clashed together, creating a puff of smoke blinding the audience from the action. A few seconds later, Izuku and Bakugo jumped back from the smoke as they smiled at each other.
Don't you dare hold back on me, Deku! Everyone here needs to know why I'm better than you!
Bakugo screamed out, launching an explosion directly at Izuku's head. Izuku put up his hand in time to block the explosion, leaving a mark, but only for it to heal quickly. Izuku pulled back his fist and released it towards Bakugo's chest. Bakugo was taken aback by the attack, but simply played it off with a chuckle.
I hope you do the same to Ka-chan!
Izuku stated. Izuku jumped back a bit, holding out his hands and fired consecutive energy blasts. Bakugo saw the energy blasts coming straight at him and quickly used his explosions to maneuver around the blasts and toward Izuku. Bakugo was inches away from Izuku's face and released multiple explosions to blind him or hurt him, hoping that it would give Bakugo enough time to sneak attack on him. Izuku dropped his energy blast and decided to fight with nothing but his fist. Izuku jumped back from Bakugo and threw a stretchy punch at Bakugo's face. Izuku's fist contacted Bakugo's face, sending him flying and out of the ring. The crowd gasped in shock, thinking that Izuku won. But a simple punch didn't stop Bakugo. Bakugo used his explosions to steady himself and blasted away from the ground and back into the ring. The audience was amazed at the two power outputs and couldn't wait for the final round with Todoroki. Mina watched in amazement while Todoroki walked away with a stern look on his face. The only thing that he cared about was Izuku winning the match. The crowd roared in excitement. Bakugo wiped the blood off of his nose, looked down at it, and smiled at it. He looked up at Izuku, and Izuku knew what he was trying to do.
It's time to finish this, Deku!
Bakugo screamed out as he blasted himself high into the air, pointing his hands behind his back, and started to spiral around. Bakugo screamed out as he blasted himself high into the air, pointing his hands behind his back, and started to spiral around, turning himself into a missile. He blasted his way towards Izuku, just standing there. Izuku planted his feet on the ground, cupping his hands behind him, closing his eyes, and concentrating on the energy. The energy began to build up in his palms and grew in size. Bakugo blasted at Izuku, as Izuku readied his attack.
Howitzer impact! Devastation wave!
The two screamed out their attacks as they connected. A giant explosion engulfs the ring, blinding everyone from the action. Bakugo was knocked out of the ring, declaring Izuku the winner of the round. The crowd roared as Izuku walked over towards Bakugo. Bakugo looked up to see Izuku's hand out in front of him. He slapped it away, pushed himself up, and slowly made his way towards the tunnel, but before turning around to face Izuku once more.
At least you didn't hold back, Deku,
Bakugo stated as he walked away with no anger in his voice.
Unlike that, Icy Hot.
Bakugo slowly inched his way as Izuku smiled as he made his way to the tunnel. Before he could make it inside, he heard someone calling his name from the stands.
Zuzu!
Mina cried out. Izuku looked and was shocked to see Mina there without any bandages or bruises on her. Izuku quickly made his way to Mina. In a disclosed building, Jiro was sitting and watching a sports festival and was intrigued with Izuku and Bakugo's fight. He took notes from one screen, and on another were blueprints of his bug son Cell. Although 16 was useful, Cell already had the DNA of All For One coursing through him, and a wide arrangement of hero cells were a part of him. Once he learns more about Majin's cells that he obtained from Izuku during the attack, then he can cooperate them into his son and create the perfect being. Jiro broke out of his thoughts as he heard the steps of someone approaching him. Turning in his chair to see Cell standing over him, Jiro stared up at his son as Cell began to speak.
Father, when can I leave this building and gain the strength I desire to defeat my enemies?
Cell questioned his father.
Soon, my boy,
Jiro stated as he went over to a different monitor.
Once 16 finds the missing androids, we'll send you in while the Nomus causes a distraction to throw the heroes off of their tracks as you absorb them and get them out of there without being spotted.
Jiro and Cell began to chuckle, which then turned into laughter that filled the room. They kept chuckling until they heard a groan coming from the monitor. Jiro turned his head to the monitor that read, voice only, and knew who groaned. Tomura, in a different building, on the other end of the monitor, wasn't having any of their conversations any longer.
Old man, why do I have to listen to you and your past talk about your plan?
Tomura asked in annoyance. The only person who was annoyed was Jero, and didn't care about this hand boy anymore, but he knew he could play a bigger role than what his master gave to him. Jero looked over towards Cell to see his tail wagging, saying that they could get rid of him now, but Jero simply put his hand up to wait for the time. Jero pressed a button and spoke to Tomura.
Unless you want to meet the same fate as your master, then you'd better start behaving and put these upgrades I gave to you to use, brat,
Jero stated. Tomura looked down at his hands, clenching them in anger after hearing what the doctor did to his master. Tomura didn't say anything else as Jero went back to his seat and waited for the finals to begin. Cell simply waited with his father until a ringer went off on one of the screens. Jero opened it and heard 16's voice. Dr. Jero, I was able to scan the area and made a proximity sighting of one of the missing androids, 16 stated. 16 walked around the city's alleyways, hoping he didn't draw too much attention. He stopped and transferred the data to Jero. Jero clicked on the data as several images popped up of a blonde woman with a short man. Jero was disgusted that his work was with such a lowlife, and not causing distraction. 16 spoke, bringing Jero away from his thoughts. Shall I apprehend her?
Not now, 16. Simply wait until everything is calm,
Jero replied.
Once the festival is finished, we'll make our move.
Back into the stadium, Izuku finally made his way to Mina, and he wasn't crazy. He saw Mina standing there in front of him, with no bandages, bruises, or marks on her. But it couldn't be. He knew how Recovery Girl's quirk worked, and Mina was already out of stamina. Mina? What's going on? And why are you out of Recovery Girl's room, and where are your bandages? Izuku questioned Mina. Mina quickly replied with excitement, and grabbed onto Izuku's arm and dragged him towards Vomi and All Might. That's why I'm here to talk about it. But we need to go to Vomi and All Might now. Aunt Vomi! All Might! Mina screamed out. Their two turned to see an undamaged Mina and a confused Izuku. Well, they were more confused than Izuku was. They got up from their seat and pushed them away from the other teachers and made sure they wouldn't be heard. They turned towards Mina and asked the same question Izuku had. Mina, why are you out of bed? Vomi questioned.
And where are your bandages?
All Might questioned. That's what I'm here to talk about. Look! Mina said as she reached onto her pockets, taking out a piece of pink goo. They asked why she was holding gum, but then it started to move on its own. They were taken aback as everyone turned their head towards Izuku, who looked confused with everything happening. Vomi took a closer look at the goo, and stated that Izuku didn't remove anything off of him. Mina then began to speak up. A piece of Izuku's skin seemed to latch itself onto me, and it began doing something weird to me. Mina began to explain that when she was lying on the bed, waiting for Recovery Girl to heal her, she started to feel her body healing. She opened her eyes to see Recovery Girl still on the other side of the room. She stated that she felt her broken bones going back into place without any pain in them. Recovery Girl turned her head to see Mina sitting straight, removing her bandages. Recovery Girl yelled at her to put them back on and lay down, but stopped talking whenever Mina removed them. Mina and Recovery Girl were shocked to see Mina fully healed within a matter of minutes. Mina was able to feel something crawling on her and looked down to see a piece of pink goo, similar to Izuku's skin tone, crawling up her. It took a few seconds to realize that it was actually a piece of Izuku and it was able to heal her. Mina then ran out of the room and towards Izuku to tell him what had happened. Once Mina finished explaining her story, Vomi inspected Mina all around and couldn't find a single cut, mark, or bruise on her. They were surprised that a piece of Izuku was able to heal an entire broken body within just a few minutes. All Might, Izuku, and Mina kept talking with each other as Vomi was deep in her thoughts. Wait, if a piece of Izuku is able to heal broken bones, then maybe... She grabbed the piece of Izuku and placed it on All Might's shoulder. Everyone was confused about what Vomi was trying to accomplish. Izuku was about to ask what she was doing, but All Might intervened.
Vomi, what are you doing?
All Might asked in a confused tone as they watched the goo slowly make its way to his damaged stomach. Experimenting. Do you feel anything happening within you? Vomi stated. She walked around All Might to see how it would work on destroyed organ systems. Before All Might could say anything, President Mike announced something through the mic.
final round is here. Can the two final contestants make their way to the ring?
Izuku took a deep breath and began to walk towards the ring. But before he could walk any further, Mina hugged him from behind, wishing him luck in the finale. Izuku smiled, hugged back, and ran towards the ring, waving them goodbye. The three smiled and waved bye to Izuku until All Might grabbed his stomach, but not in pain, but rather in confusion. Mina and Vomi turned their heads to see All Might changing his form in front of them. However, All Might stated that it felt different and that his organs and stomach felt full. Vomi was surprised that it healed destroyed organs and made the person back in their prime. And All Might was back in his prime. Todoroki and Izuku walked into the ring, giving each other the cold stare as the crowd roared in excitement with Present Mic hyping them up. "I've defeated Mina, and I'll defeat you too, Midoriya," Todoroki said coldly. He prepared his quirk to strike Midoriya and prove everything to his father. Izuku didn't reply to his statement. All he did was go into a fight stance and kept a straight face the whole time. Midnight screamed out for the two to begin the fight. Todoroki placed his hand on the ground as a huge but controlled barrage of ice walls charged at Izuku. Izuku noticed they were coming at the same speed when he fought Mina, putting up his hands and firing multiple energy blasts to destroy the ice. However, the ice kept coming and coming until Izuku was covered in ice. Todoroki let out a sigh and knew that this match was his. President Mike was about to declare Todoroki the winner of the sports festival, but fell silent as he heard loud booms coming from the inside of the ice. Everyone turned to see Izuku, punching his way out of the ice, turning his legs into spring, and jumping at Todoroki, landing a punch directly on his chest. Todoroki was near the edge of the ring with the audience to see if this would be a ring out for him, but Todoroki used his ice to create a half pipe to slide back into the ring. It kept going back and forth. Todoroki sent out ice walls, and Izuku would punch or blast them, hitting them out of the ring, only for Todoroki to slide back into it. This started to anger Todoroki because Izuku was simply playing with him. Or so he thought.
"Why won't you stay down?"
Todoroki kept firing ice walls at Izuku, but it did not affect him. The ice on Todoroki's shoulder began to cover his right side, slowing down his ice attacks.
"Or actually just try throwing me out instead of playing with me."
Izuku noticed that Todoroki wasn't focusing on the fight, but on what was going on in his head. After hearing his story, Izuku stopped in his place and said what was on his mind.
"You shouldn't listen to what your father says, and listen to what you want."
Todoroki stopped firing ice walls and knew what Izuku was trying to do. Todoroki stated that he knew that he, Mina, and his father wanted to use his fire. Todoroki fired another ice wall, but it didn't have an effect on Izuku. Izuku stated that he had nothing to do with his father, and began to say how everyone here gave it their all. Even Izuku went all out.
"So, if you want to be a hero like everyone else in our classes,"
Izuku stated as he clenched his fists as a pink aura surrounded him,
"then show everyone what you got!"
Todoroki froze, not from his quirk, but Izuku's sentence. The ice on Todoroki slowly began to melt, then suddenly, his left side burst into flames. Everyone was shocked to see Todoroki use his fire side, while Endeavor screamed out his son's name and how he couldn't defeat Izuku with just his ice. However, Todoroki wasn't listening to him and only focused on Izuku. Todoroki activated his fire and ice and fired a concentrated blast directly at Izuku. Izuku's aura grew large as he concentrated on the beam with Izuku, firing the devastation waves. Midnight told Cementos to create a barrier for the beams, but that didn't do much. Todoroki's combination of fire and ice, along with Izuku's beam, clashed with each other, creating a giant explosion that blew the students, teachers, and stadium away. The stadium went up in smoke, blinding everyone from the excitement. President Might asked what was happening down there as the smoke slowly dissipated. The stadium went from silent to excitement in a matter of minutes for the winner of the sports festival, Izuku Midoriya. Thank you all for indulging yourself in this information thus far. I hope you all enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for great storytelling, We the Celestials have you covered. We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the stories of their namesake anime with a twist. Check them out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of the We the Celestials team, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details may be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years old to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.